Welcome to Direct Approach, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by Wayne Moorehead, delivering timely insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways from your direct selling executive peers to fuel your business's growth and evolution. What if the secret to transforming lives in direct selling wasn't just products, but building community to solve a global health crisis? In this episode, Wayne sits down with Kirk Jowers, CEO of doTERRA, for an inspiring talk on shifting from political law to leading with purpose. With decades of leadership experience, Kirk reveals how doTERRA is driving global growth, innovating with wellness, and shaping the future of direct selling. If you're ready to rethink leadership and amplify your impact, this episode offers invaluable insights you won't want to miss. But before we begin, we'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, Exego. Tired of struggling with outdated systems and inflated technical debt? Are you losing time and money on staff or software inefficiencies? Exego can help. Our all-in-one platform as a service simplifies everything from commissions to reporting to e-commerce. With Exego, you can finally focus on growing your business, not managing it. Don't let technical headaches hold you back. Visit exego.com and discover how Exego can transform your MLM company. Now let's welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and his guest, Kirk Jowers.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead. And today's guest has had a fascinating career, from beginning at a partner in a DC law firm where he advised Fortune 500 companies, political parties, and even presidential candidates, to leading one of the largest direct selling companies in the world. I'm excited to welcome the CEO of doTERRA, Kirk Jowers. Kirk, thank you so much for being here.
Wayne, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you. Listen to your podcast all the time, and I really appreciate what it does to bring our community together in one place to hear our stories.
Thank you. No, absolutely. I go back and I listen, not to hear my own voice, but to hear the great to hear the great insights. And it's just something, a way that we can all kind of get together in between DSUs and large kind of industry events, just to kind of stay connected. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And Kirk, it's interesting. I think, we've been in each other's orbits for a long time. I'm not sure if we've ever really had a sit down and a chance to talk, but I've known so many people that have worked with you and for you, and everybody speaks so highly of you as a leader, a person, and a friend. So really looking forward to getting to know you and learn from you today. You're doing a lot of incredible things there at doTERRA. I keep my ear to the ground and know a few of the key things that are going on there. But before we jump in, can you share a little bit about the path that led you from Harvard Law and practicing in DC into the direct selling channel?
Yeah, my career doesn't make a ton of sense. I guess you would never chart it, but I've loved it. Yeah, I went to law school, did political law in DC for 20 years. And that included, I think you mentioned the 5 presidential campaigns and 60 or so congressional. A lot of it was just helping companies get their government affairs, their political strategy correct. The last 10 years of that political and law career, I was also at the University of Utah, where I ran the Hinckley Institute and the Middle East Center, and was a vice president over a few areas. Did all of that kind of simultaneously, just went back and forth a lot between Utah and DC. And then 2015 was kind of the real inflection point. There was, of course, another presidential campaign about to hit in 2016. A lot of great candidates. I had a few ask if I would be their counsel and strategist. I had a very personal relationship with the candidate that I had been with in 2012, and it just felt difficult to do another campaign with maybe not the same connection. And at the same time, I was thinking about running for political office, and this company called doTERRA had come calling. So I was kind of weighing the three options. Honestly, Wayne, with doTERRA, it was just whether they would be another client. I had no thought of joining them, but was kind of overwhelmed by doTERRA's co-impact sourcing model. Really liked some of the leadership team, and was intrigued by not only the co-impact sourcing model, which we may talk about at some point, but also this sense of community that direct selling brings, that kind of no other industry brings and creates. And so short story of it is I chose doTERRA, and instead of just being an attorney, they'd be client number 93 or whatever, gave up everything to jump over into doTERRA. They obviously had me do the things that my past career would make you think I might be able to do okay, but then also allowed me to be the head of Europe, Middle East, and Africa, which was very small at that point. So they probably figured not a lot for me to screw up if if it didn't go well, but it went really well thanks to the amazing wellness advocates, our distributors that we had there in our team, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, that's such an inspiring origin story. I am always amazed how much of a well-worn path the practicing law is into the CEO role in direct selling. Many companies have been able to see that, whether it's Truman Hunt and at doTERRA or Tyler Whitehead or others. So definitely a well-worn path. I'm curious, just on a personal note, where did you live when you were in DC?
Lived in Alexandria at
Yeah,
first, and as we kept having more kids, we moved out a little bit further to Fairfax Station.
that's great. I grew up in Potomac on the
Oh,
Maryland
nice.
side. So yeah, I was there till I went off to school, but love the area. DC's a great place.
I love DC too. I've pretty much always had an excuse to go there a couple of times a month
Mhm.
until maybe the last 3 years, and since then I've always had at least one kid who lives there. One's with McKinsey at the moment, and
Wow,
so
that's impressive as well.
yeah. But so I like to say I'm a recovering attorney at this point.
Yeah.
There are some skills that are very useful, others that you kind of have to, rely on your own attorneys and push very deep inside you.
Sure. Well, we're glad you made the decision to join doTERRA. I know you've had a big impact there, and as a result, a big impact on the direct selling channel, and have really impacted a lot of satisfied and happy customers and brand partners there at doTERRA. So we're glad you made that decision and that doTERRA didn't just become another client.
I am too. Definitely a life changer. And you know this maybe better than anyone else, but one thing that I didn't realize that would be kind of amazing about doTERRA and any great direct selling company is I've never been in a place where your entire soul, your entire self, it can be involved. And love my wife, Kristen, and she also can be totally involved. It's the opposite of this series Severance. You
Yeah.
you are doing your career, your business, and so all of those parts of you are activated, the strategic, the work ethic, all of that, but also your philanthropy can play a big role. The social aspect and being together and building communities, and you, Kristen and I, do a lot of that together. So it's amazing because a lot of jobs, it's similar to severance. You go, you do your thing, and then you come home and you live a completely different life. Not so with direct selling. You're kind of in 24/7, or you're not really in.
No, I agree. It is very immersive, and I've always loved that as well, where they allow family and close members to be involved, whether it's going on a work trip or going to an incentive trip or something like that. And I do love the comprehensive take that direct selling companies make. It's not just about revenue. It's not just about the product, but it is about the community, about the impact that it can have on lives in so many different ways. And that's one of the reasons I'm very grateful to have been a part of direct selling for so long. It's definitely changed my life in a lot of ways, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I left doTERRA for a couple of years to start my own company, not in the direct selling space, but it's called Addicts Overlanding, ADDAX, not addicts.
Sure.
But we partner with Jeep, and it's a wonderful company, and it's great. I'm still involved as chair there, but when doTERRA gave me the opportunity to return, I won. I loved it, and felt a real pull to the people, especially over in Europe, where I watched them go from just starting to, our highest ranks, and just watched the life-changing effect it had on them and everyone they brought into doTERRA. But I also felt like I had made, and I know you probably feel this as well, so many promises to thousands of people. I'd looked them in the eye and said, if you join doTERRA, it will be the best decision you ever make. It'll bless you and others for the rest of your lives. It'll make you healthier, happier, hopefully wealthier, and you can share that with others. And so to have the opportunity to come back and try to keep those promises was really compelling.
It is. That's beautiful. Similarly, I've been in and out of direct selling a couple times, and I always invoke the famous Godfather quote that every time I think I'm out, I get pulled back in. But it is wonderful, and it always feels like home for me, honestly. So
Yeah.
I'll be staying here forever, never leaving again. But it's amazing how, when it almost takes sometimes leaving to realize how incredible it is sometimes. Again, all those aspects we discussed. But so you joined about 10 years ago at doTERRA. You held significant roles running the North American region, helping with international expansion, other key initiatives. And about a year ago, you became CEO, and interestingly, the first non-founder CEO in the company's history. And I'm curious what that transition's been like for you personally and the company as a whole.
There are, occasionally interesting spots as everyone tries to adapt to new roles. We don't have any of our great founders in ops roles, but they're still obviously incredibly drawn to the business and having amazing insights. And so I meet frequently with them. And our board meetings are a great opportunity to make sure we are aligned. But they are, committed to this transition, and for the most part, it's been great. I read a lot of books, over the kind of the 2.5 years when I was away from doTERRA, about the move from the entrepreneurial to the professional class. And most of them can best be described as, dumpster fire for several years. And I think we are avoiding that nicely. I feel great alignment and great excitement for, what's ahead for doTERRA. And gratefully, we're getting a lot of wins recently, which kind of helps, I think, everyone's comfort level go up, that they can do their thing. They're all doing kind of amazing things on their own, including being involved with doTERRA. Great service missions and across the world, in El Salvador and Armenia and Georgia, and building the biggest theater in Utah County, and supporting that, and on and on. So they're all wonderful people doing incredible things. And so luckily they're not just sitting around wondering what's going on here. They've got very vibrant lives themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the initial wins, and I'm curious, from a process of acclimating the field to, the first non-founder, CEO, corporate leadership, what are some of the things that you felt were really important in creating that partnership and that trust with the field?
I had a little advantage there. As you mentioned, my career, I wasn't coming in cold.
Right.
I knew almost every leader that had started before 2022. Obviously, the COVID years, a little bit of a gap, maybe, for a year or two in there as well, as far as the real deep personal relationships. The founders, when they brought me in 2015, I was the first non-founder to be on that executive committee. And so, I think that's one reason the transition has been so smooth is I I kind of sat at their feet for the first couple of years and was heavily involved, but got to see how each of them thought individually, got to see where the healthy friction was between the seven, got to see where other friction might be, and was able to kind of internalize a lot of that so that when I came back, I wasn't just making Kirk decisions or even our new core executive team decisions, but I could summon my inner David Sterling a little bit and understand why certain decisions were made, back in 2016, 17, 18, and how it plays on today. But at the same time, I think they all really feel, as do I, that the world is changing. The direct selling world is changing. I think Boston Consulting Group said, whether you know it or not, or believe it or not, about 30% of your industry is changing every year. And so if you aren't actively trying to look around that corner, you can get left behind pretty quickly. And they get that. And so I think it's helped to keep a real love and appreciation for the legacy and what got doTERRA to these heights, but then also to know for our people, this just needs to be stage one. We're just 16 years old. We're a teenager. And now we got the next 16 years of really, becoming a foundational company and a forever company. And so it's exciting.
It is really exciting. And you definitely didn't come in cold, again, with all the deep experience you'd had for years with the company. I know that was a huge advantage in helping to make that smooth transition, with leadership and with the field. And you're right, this is a really interesting time in direct selling, especially for somebody to be, coming in and taking the helm, or taking the reins at a company. I'm curious, with that great history, that 16-year history, how have you been able to balance honoring that legacy, that history, with also realizing that in today's changing landscape, that there's going to be undoubtedly, elements that need to evolve, just as you said, BCG's, quote of that 30% is changing. How have you been able to balance the history with the need for evolution?
Again, I do think it's just a part of me. I was fortunate I wasn't there for the start. They had it, 7 years before I got there. So they are truly the founders and had to go through the challenges, that roller coaster that our distributors all feel when they start this company, the elation, the terror.
Mhm.
And by the time I got there, it was a strong and thriving company. So I was able to internalize that. I think even being away for a couple of years, I wasn't completely away because I continued to consult for doTERRA, but I was pretty engaged in this other company. It did give me enough separation to really follow what was going on. I have some great friends in the industry, some of whom are some of your great friends, some who would probably surprise the outside world because of perceived rivalries or contentions between different companies. Was able to watch and talk to them about what they were seeing. Even some of the trade associations, I continued to be the main person to interact with them. So it was kind of, it's my story, but it feels like it was kind of a perfect thing have all of this legacy inside of me, but then to step outside and have enough space for a year or two to see these evolutions. So to be more specific, for example, our compensation plan, it's an amazing plan. It was, I think, a big part about why doTERRA grew so fast. But 16 years, inflation, on and on, the gig economy. I mean, so many things didn't exist in 2008 that exists now. We had to change that and make it more friendly to our new wellness advocates, make it something that would modernize and last. But not without some concern, because as you know, I've talked to a lot of people that our distributors, our wellness advocates bring to me, who are leaving, some great company. And obviously the first question, one of the first you always ask is, why after 3 years, why after 12 years do you want to come to doTERRA and leave company X? And a lot of the answers come with, they changed the compensation plan. Usually it's 4 or 5 times in a year, and it was all against us. But nonetheless, that is something I've learned. We've had hundreds of people come to us from other companies, and that can be a big answer. So we were very deliberate. This was one where we measured, 100 times, 1,000 times to cut once, and we're actually pretty excited about it, and glad that the field is really excited and embracing it.
Yeah, and so it's out into the field now. So this new compensation structure is out in the real world.
It's out in the real world. Yeah, it
That's
jumped
great.
out of the nest.
Yeah. So tell me again, any change to a compensation plan, needs to be done carefully and can be concerning. I'm curious, what were some of the ways that you made that, potential issue a successful introduction, a successful evolution of the comp plan? What were some of those key factors?
Well, the first was a vision of what's great about it, what's evolving, what needs to change, and where do we want to get. And I forgot who said it, but someone said, if you fail to plan, you're a fool. And if you follow the plan, you're a fool. And there's some truth to that, because as we modeled it, and then as we started meeting with our different leaders, certain assumptions and the vision did change. At the end, we did figure out 5 things that it needed to do. One, we needed a pathway to $500 early, quick. With inflation, we used to have a quick and easy path to $250. That was good in 2008. It's not as good when you've got kind of, these people who maybe need money right now, and they can do Uber, they can do DoorDash, they can do all this gig economy stuff. And it may only pay them $12 to $15 an hour, but it's certain money. It's essentially Burger King has now, had stolen from direct selling time freedom, but it's still just a job. It's not a career. Direct selling is a career, and a wonderful career, but we have to give them that step into it. So pathway to 500. Drive unilevel growth. We have other ways for people to make money, which are wonderful and important. But again, the career is the unilevel growth. 3, simplify and remove barriers. Sometimes you can make these things they're just too complex. And certainly the ones that have been in it for a while, it becomes their native language. But this new generation, there's easier ways, again, affiliate model, all these things, easy ways to make money up front. I think they're more jobs than careers. But we don't want to overwhelm people. We want them to understand quickly and efficiently how this can benefit them now, and how it can, give them the lifestyle they want in the future. Next, this will not mean a ton to most people, but increased platinum incentives. Platinum is one of our levels. It's always been one that hasn't made as much sense to go from, usually when you're going from silver to gold, there's a real reason to do it, and to go to platinum to diamond really makes a lot of sense. Going from gold to platinum doesn't make a lot of sense, but certain things above platinum are dependent on platinum. And so it's just always been this kind of awkward, this awkward part of the compensation plan that has caused other issues. So we wanted to finally fix that once and for all. And then innovating for the future, which is the most vague of the five, but to us is very meaningful. We know where we're going and where we need to go. I think the most complicating part of it was really that it's a global compensation plan. And so, the per capita GDP of the US is whatever, $83,000 a year now. In Romania, it's 40,000. In Brazil, it's 18,000. And on you go. To make it work on a global basis was probably what took the most work. Once we had the vision, once we knew exactly where we wanted to go, but then, working with each market, we found other potential complications or issues.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Really interesting. Those really helpful to kind of break it up into those 5 key areas. And just kind of to circle back on a couple, I love that you started with the vision. Understanding what the end in mind is, and what you wanted, the benefits that you wanted to deliver at different ranks within the compensation plan. And it wasn't just about, oh, we're going to shift all the money from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. But I also think it's really powerful and inspiring that your first one was the pathway to 500. So making sure that those people that are just coming in, that first check can have such an impact on their life, but also on their future commitment to the company. But I think it's really telling of you as a leader in the company, kind of the spirit that's there, that was kind of number one on your list was, how do we get those new people $500 as quickly as possible? It's especially in today's gig environment, as you said. I also simplifying and removing barriers. That's definitely been one of the huge challenges and issues for growth and for managing expectations with whether it's a customer or a distributor. It has been, or it has at times been, really complex to do business with us. And now when it's, you can flip on an app and, make some money driving, we really do need to remove those barriers. And I also think it's interesting talking about that platinum rank and um, the importance of these kind of gateway ranks that are so key into getting into senior leadership, but having some type of catalyst and creating that momentum to move into there. Again, thank you for sharing all that. I think that's really inspiring for me, and I think great lessons for all of us. I know all of us right now are looking at our comp plans. There's probably not one company, that's not looking at our compensation structure right now. And so this is, I think, is a great framework for all of us to follow. So moving into, or I guess I want to move back a little bit. You had that little 2-year window to take a step back, to take a little bit of a bird's eye view. And you've mentioned a couple of the changes that you saw in the channel and within kind of those drivers of customers and distributors. What are some of the other changes that you saw or that you see coming that we really need to address?
Well, COVID obviously hit all of us in different ways. It seems like for most of us, the initial quarter, 2 quarters, maybe we got lucky and pulled 3 out of there. were really great. People, especially those of us, at least in the health and wellness space, people were looking for anything that could potentially put them in a better position. I think the community maybe also seemed a little attractive, although that became difficult, especially in certain countries, states. But then for most of us, it didn't go quite as well. Some of us, we just went from rocket growth to stagnation a little bit. Others, I know, took a little more harrowing ride. So, and then, of course, we've been out of COVID for a while. So, the first thing I knew we needed to do, which was not difficult, we did the first right sizing in the history of doTERRA. We built like we were going to grow. You know, we ran out of almost all our products in that first quarter of COVID, and you know, and you can look at it like we lost tens and tens of millions of dollars for our people during that time because we didn't have it because the demand was so massive. So, you know, we had massive inventory. We had employees as though we were going to grow at, you know, 70% year over year. And it's just not healthy, and it causes other stresses. So that was day one. We got in a room for 6.5 weeks and really went unit by unit, person by person, and made it as strategic as possible for a very difficult thing. But that really helped to put us back into a very healthy financial situation. Don't expect to do one again, especially with our recent growth. So we had to do that. And as I've watched other companies, some of the grand old horses, I mean, the ones that we really all stand on their shoulders, you know, Tupperware being the most recent, and then some of the new, more exciting ones who also had successful runs. A lot of them left the channel, and almost without exception, it was either because they saw a great opportunity to cash in those first couple of months and let some private equity and other money come in. And if you aren't born and raised for a few years in direct selling, you're not going to get it. There's a lot of these PE firms. I worked with some with my new company. They're brilliant, but they're brilliant in their space. They're not brilliant in ours. And so the moment they see a dip, they start to abandon their field. And so we've seen that with some companies. Others didn't take care of their house. Expenses got too much, and bankruptcy and other things came. So, you know, a lot of it was not seeing anything that unique in the history of time, but you got to keep your house in order. You've got to stay on top of your finances, of your expenses. You've got to honor all of your promises to your field always, and never abandon your field. And you can't let other people control your promises to your field. You know, we have a set amount that we are going to give to our field, and our compensation plan will never change that to adversely impact our field. That's a promise we've made. We'll never do anything that would lessen the impact of our field. We know of companies that have gone into retail space, and it looked like a huge win because they sold hundreds of millions in that retail space and lost, you know, $1 billion of their direct selling space. And that's always the beginning of the end. So it really amplified to me, be true. Number one thing, be true to your field, be true to your distributors. Never waver from that. And if you do that, there will never be a worst case scenario.
Yeah, that is really wise advice. I love the idea of being true to the distributor and really helping to maintain that trust and that relationship at all costs, and also the potential impact of bringing in outside people or outside money that might not understand the channel well. You've talked about the private equity, and they're experts in their field, but not always in direct selling. And I, lived that firsthand at a company that brought in PE, and it changed the dynamic, of the company for sure. But I think if we can anchor ourselves in that, be true to your distributor, and not let other people control our promises, I think there's a lot of power in that.
Are you ready to revolutionize the way your direct selling company accesses industry insights? Introducing the DSN Library's Smart Search, an AI-powered tool that puts over 2,000 curated assets at your fingertips. From compensation trends to emerging markets, answers are just a click away. If you're already a DSN supporter, then you have access to Smart Search right now. If not, it's time to check out our updated program for 2025. Starting at just $1,000 per month, your entire company can get access to the channel's most comprehensive collection of education and insights available. Visit directsellingnews.com/supporter to see a demo of Smart Search in action and to learn how your company can become a supporter now. We also invite you to join us for DSU Europe, June 3rd to 5th in Amsterdam. This is where Europe's top direct selling leaders will gather to explore the latest insights, strengthen industry connections, and discover new growth opportunities. Plus, save the date for the Fall DSU happening September 6th through 8th in Plano, Texas. Visit dsnevents.com today for details.
So one of the things I've always admired about doTERRA is how product driven it is. You have really helped. I've been in the category as well. And so I do have a great appreciation. And by category, I mean the essential oils category at one or two points in my career. And I really do have a great appreciation for the impact that doTERRA had on the category, on creating energy, on modernizing it, on adding great growth and excitement and awareness. And so anyway, hats off to doTERRA and all that they did to really kind of create that incredible category and help grow it. I'm curious, with all the excitement that was created, it also brought in a lot of competition into that category. And I'm curious what are some of the key factors that have allowed doTERRA to maintain that leadership position in a ever increasingly crowded category?
Well, that's kind of you. And, Young Living, obviously, doTERRA stands on its shoulders, as well as all of the pioneers from France and elsewhere that kind of made that just kept this knowledge and this use, the science of essential oils, and building it to a point where doTERRA could bring it to the masses. So very grateful and aware of all the people who came before doTERRA. I was my first meeting with the doTERRA founders, I did not know what an essential oil was. I could not have told you. 2014-ish, when I first met a couple of them. And now it really has become a commodity to a large extent. You cannot use human or dog shampoo that's not infused with essential oils. And so the story's not quite as intriguing, exciting, even weird as it was when Young Living started and even when doTERRA started. And so product story is a big deal. Now, one thing that I think is incumbent on the companies that care about quality, which obviously that's our hallmark, is the purity of our product, is the education. The commoditization doesn't mean they're going to the best places on earth to get the best essential oils. These are natural products. A few years ago, we tested 50 companies. 47 of them had adulterations, synthetics, dilutions, only 3 that didn't. doTERRA was one of the 3. And that's a problem for people. I remember how excited I was in 2018. Halle Berry used to have, maybe she still does, had a fitness thing, and it kind of came across my feed, and she said, I take essential oils internally. And then she kind of froze and said, I only use doTERRA because I know it's pure. You don't want to ingest synthetic things. It was just a very real moment. We had never talked to her. Didn't know she even used our products, but there's a lot of truth to what she said at that moment, that, some companies have Fruit Loops and we have fruit, and you can't confuse the two because your health depends on it. So I think people know they can trust us, and that has really helped. We've also had some amazing innovations that use essential oils in different ways besides just kind of the famous bottle that a lot of companies now have. I mean, you can get essential oils now at gas stations, Walmart, Target. The best indicator, we love it when companies do this, when they make them all the exact same price. You've been, very tightly associated with essential oils. You don't walk into a supermarket and pay the exact same amount for a blueberry, kale, celery, and an apple. And likewise, you shouldn't pay the same amount for lemons, which 1,000 lemons on a tree, 1,000 lemons in an orchard versus frankincense, which comes from, desert spots. It's one tree and, hanging off of cliffs. So it's pretty obvious, but still, that's a challenge, I think, for us and others in the space that care a lot about the communities who grow and distill these products and getting the best ones.
Yeah, it's really simple yet powerful that one of the best competitive strategies with a product is just have a really great product, that's
Yeah.
better than what's out there. And the customers, we're discerning. We're label readers now. We understand and want to know what's in a product or what's not in a product. And so having that commitment to quality, I know, has been really a pillar of the company there. You mentioned some of the other categories that doTERRA has extended into over those 16 years, a really great and broad portfolio. But yet I also know that innovation is really a huge part of your leadership style and what you're pushing the company to do as well. So where do you look in within a very broad portfolio? How do you find the white space, those areas to innovate where there's great opportunity and where it can kind of help extend that growth?
We are wellness powered by essential oils. And so everything we look at kind of starts with essential oils and how we can make them more effective, more user friendly. So on kind of really easy to explain, Deep Blue is a very popular product for us. We're probably 85 to 90% woman company. It does vary by country and region. For whatever reason, women are a lot more intuitive with the essential oils we found, but Deep Blue is a great entry product for the men, and then they kind of develop from there. And so we still have it in the squeeze out, and you rub it, with your hands, and but it is powerful. So be careful. Don't touch your eye immediately after rubbing that on your knees or shoulders, elbows. So we put it into a stick and added copaiba, which is an amazing essential oil from the Amazon in Brazil. And so you can kind of do it, get right back into the game. You see a lot of NBA and other players using it, and they like the stick better because, again, you don't want to accidentally touch your eye. Although one NBA player was kind of funny. He's like, no, I want this because when I play defense and I kind of put my hand into their face, then they'll feel the power of of Deep Blue, and so I'm not sure if he did it or not. I won't disclose who it was, but so that's that one form. Just make it easier. Wellness made simple is kind of those are our two mantras right now: wellness powered by essential oils and wellness made simple. How do we make it easier for people to use? Essential oils are, as you know, we have people who can tell you about 60 or 100 essential oils, and they each have slightly different properties, some, drastically different, but, in the different categories, citrus, there's certainly variance between wild orange and lemon and lime and what they do. But, these people really know, but for others, it can get just completely overwhelming. Like lavender, okay, I'll use that before I go to bed. What about clove? How am I going to use clove? Anyway, so we're try to make it a little more intuitive for people. And then the other part is we have found, had great success with VMG Plus and our E Omega Plus, the fish oils and the vitamin mineral product that we have, that essential oils when done right and getting the right essential oils. It takes a lot of work, a lot of science. People a lot smarter than me. We can make it much more bioavailable for people. Typical vitamins that you'd get at to Costco or CVS, you might get 20 to 25% of what you take. When you combine them with essential oils and with some other technologies, you get closer to 85%. So I think we're a first mover on some of those things. Undoubtedly, people won't be selling their grandma's vitamins at some point, but hopefully that gives us an edge for the next 5 years or so, and then hopefully we'll have new innovations that will continue to keep us standing apart from, the Me Too that inevitably happens.
I think those anchors are so important when considering product strategy, knowing that platform of essential oils, the importance of simplicity in delivery system, maybe an ingredient profile, but having these anchors allows you to authentically and in a very relevant way extend into these new areas and find those new opportunities, but do it in a way that really really is relevant to the existing brand partners, the existing customers. So I think those are so important. And with that broad portfolio, again, I've been at companies that have very broad portfolios. With launching into the field, there's always the need and importance to help them incorporate it into their duplication model. Adding a new product is great. It adds excitement. To some degree, it can also add complexity. So what have you found are important principles when bringing new products to the field?
Honestly, almost everything I learned was from our wellness advocates in Europe. When I got over there, maybe my greatest gift was that I was pretty naive, very naive. And so on this front, so I just started talking to our leaders. At that point, we only had only done 14 million for the entire region at that point. So it was very small, but we had a few great leaders. And so I just was able to sit with them and, what does it take for you to bring in new people, to your point? And you start to realize, oh man, every time we make a change, it disrupts hundreds of thousands of people's lives. We think, oh, we're just going to do this. We launch it, we leave it. It's very disruptive. So I learned that early. The other thing I learned was more products does not necessarily mean, more opportunity, more money for our people or the company. So we had the person who went fastest from 0 to presidential diamond was in Norway. She did that in Norway at a time where we could not get about 70% of our products in there. They're one of the more stringent companies. It just takes longer than it does the other companies. And we'd had one issue there before I got there that was really slowing things down. So she did it, in a country where, and the rest of Europe was in awe. Like, how do you do that? You don't have, these 10 products, which are the mainstays. And, in typical Norwegian fashion, she said, I don't know how you do it. You have this huge portfolio of stuff. I just go in and I talk to them and I find out what they need. And I say, you need this, this, and this. And they're like, great. And they buy it. If you guys go in and say, we've got 100 things that could make your life better. And she's like, I think you'll never get, I don't know how you ever get anyone with that. So there is a balance between having a lot of great products to solve a lot of needs, but also keeping it simple. And so, we are actively involved in SKU reduction and really fine tuning our product vision and product roadmap to not be everything for everyone. And we don't want to be the everything store. We want to be wellness powered by essential oils, and that will dictate where we go.
Yeah, that focus is so powerful. I agree, and have been in that position where we always look at that one extra thing, let's add this, and it's going to add excitement. It'll add incremental revenue. And that's not always the case in a business like this. So having that focus, I know, is really important for the current portfolio, as well as how you approach the future portfolio. You mentioned international in Norway. And that's one of the things, as I've looked from the outside over the years, that doTERRA has done really well, is international expansion, supporting those international markets and helping them grow. Can you share a little bit about some of the ways that you've found to effectively keep those markets aligned around a common strategy, a common vision? What has helped with that?
And that's one thing I really love about doTERRA and any company in this industry that gets to get out into a lot of markets, because there is science to it. I mean, you can model, there's all sorts of data that you can take to understand it, but it also is, so contingent on finding those great leaders. And there are, unique markets. Our Japan market, which is thriving, it has a very different take on our products than it does, North America, for example. But I think we are always centered on essential oils. Different products we can be convinced are part of the wellness equation in that country, and we have products in Japan that we don't have in North America, and vice versa. But I think that unifying vision is a start, but it can't be a prison. It's a guide rope, but not a prison, because the great markets, the great leaders, distributor leaders, they can be really compelling on why their market needs this. Brazil, certain of us have our products there. We've had an incredible market there. The tariffs and other things can make it challenging, and so you kind of have to move into more of a manufacturing space there than maybe you do in other countries where it works freely. Of course, with this new administration, some of those equations will change. Will change as tariffs hit new countries harder, or come back on the U.S. harder. So it's always exciting. There's always new things to consider.
Yeah, I think that is really important advice, and some really great takeaways there. The importance of being both fixed and flexible, and
Right.
knowing where to be fixed and what areas can get stretched a little bit. But also understanding that that underlying story in different markets can still be the same, but the sequencing and the drivers might be a little bit different. Where, for example, being, rigorous testing and science supported in the US, with the leaning towards kind of the natural as the driver, and the science kind of supports. And I'm guessing in Asia and maybe other markets, the science might drive and the natural support. So it's still the same story, but you may just lead at different times with different messages, and kind of dial some up and some down, but still remaining true to the core. I think that's really important.
Yeah, well said. And we do have core principles that we won't deviate from, even though you're right, there are some countries that are like, we don't care about that ingredient,
Mhm.
we're fine with it. But if, we do have guidelines and ones we're trying that we will avoid. And yeah, and so it's not always universally acclaimed, because sometimes they're like, no, we don't care. We think whoever's wrong about that, but we're like, this is our ingredient deck, and we're not going to deviate, because we
Yeah.
need people to know around the world that they can count on this. They can count on purity. They can count on, we won't do these things. We will do those. And so that's core. But beyond that, you're right. The fixed and flexible, you have to have it, because they need to know how to build. They need to be able to build it, meet them where they are within something that unifies doTERRA as standing for something.
Yeah, those pillars are so important. They actually, I think, help make things move faster. They make decision making faster when you know what's on the table, what's not on the table. You're
Right.
able to move really quick, and again, keep all those markets aligned. So, in the last couple minutes, may give you a little bit of a whiplash. I want to look back and then look forward right at the end here. But as you look back to joining doTERRA or the day that you took the CEO role, what do you feel thus far are some of the most important decisions that you've made?
First is honestly my core executive team. I'm a big believer in building great teams. I've got lifelong relationships with people dating back from my early 20s. I've been on their team or they've been on my team. We have a phenomenal team, and I don't know that I've ever felt more unified with a group of people. And we've been able to build that out really nicely throughout the company. Number two, we took a good hard look and did some of the hard things with expenses, both COGS, inventory, employee compensation, and we took immediate action on all of that. And then we've been just hyper focused on growth, and we've got, and growth with focus though. Again, we've kind of flirted around this a lot. Direct selling companies, I've worked with Fortune 50 companies at my law firm. You name it, I'd probably represented them in some way. And yeah, their revenue is, 50 billion, 100 billion, a lot more than any of us. But I don't think it's nearly as complex in a lot of ways. A lot of those CEOs talk to 5 people a week, and they're all very professional. They've all got their Harvard business degree and their Yale law degree and whatever. We get the opportunity to talk to people from 100 different countries. Just the social intensity of our job is very complex. But that also means you've got to be really focused. And so we've focused on 5 things that we are doing this year, and we've got teams on each one. And it doesn't mean we're not going to do the blocking and tackling that has to happen, but we are locked in that these are the 5 things we are going to accomplish. And I think that focus, the vision and the focus, now that we've kept the house in order, is what's going to allow us to take advantage of what I see as a massive opportunity in this health and wellness space for doTERRA and hopefully others in our space to really catapult and have to have that big growth space again.
So your career has been really inspiring. You have operated at the highest levels in multiple different sectors and industries. And I'm curious, what do you feel is one of the greatest leadership lessons that you've learned?
I'm actually going to go to someone who I didn't work for. I worked for some amazing people. 2 people I really admired, John McCain, Mitt Romney. I worked with Senator McCain from 1996 until he passed. I worked for Mitt Romney in some capacity or another from 1993 to when he retired this last year from the U.S. Senate. But I'm going to use President Obama, who beat both of them in 2008 and 2012. You might remember in the primary election in 2008, so this was against McCain, he made a statement which caused a firestorm. And I had people who I knew who were working for then candidate Obama. He wasn't President Obama yet. And he canceled some of his upcoming events. There's nothing like a presidential race, the demand that's on it, on these people. But he flew back to Chicago to talk to the couple of thousand, mostly college and younger people who were believers in him and his movement. and he apologized. He apologized that he had misspoken. He wasn't going to take any excuses. I know he was exhausted, and you get frustrated. The same questions, the same mean-spiritedness that's hitting candidates of either side all the time. And he apologized to them and said, "You are killing yourselves for us and for this movement." And I thought that was a great moment. He could have easily said to one of his chief of staffs or somebody, "Go back and say, yeah, Barack messed that up, but he's incredible. He's killing himself. Stop whining, get back to work." But he took accountability to himself, which, talking to my friends who worked for him, that was a pivotal moment. So it actually became one of the things that helped him win, helped him beat Hillary Clinton and then McCain. It made them even more devoted to him, because he didn't just say, "Who are you guys to question me?" He knew he had messed up, and he owned it. So I thought that was a great leadership lesson. I could give 100 more from the guys who lost, to him, or from David Sterling, our doTERRA's original founder and CEO. But for some reason, that kind of hit me that we expect a lot from our people. We need to expect a lot from ourselves and own up when we don't get it exactly right.
Oh, that's such a powerful lesson. Thank you for sharing that. So final question. I know that you and doTERRA have been so committed to the direct selling channel, have been incredible champions for it. As you look out over the next 3 to 5 years, what excites you the most about being part of the direct selling channel?
A lot of things. As you know, direct selling industry is $175 million global industry. It's 39 million or so in the US, $39 billion. So we are a force together. One of the things I did in my law practice is I often worked with and for AT&T and Verizon Wireless, for example, fierce competitors in one space, but fierce collaborators in others. And I think, even more so, we need to do that. But what am I excited about for direct selling? We are the answer to the world's biggest problems. The US, the UK, and Japan have done some really incredible surveys on our biggest health problems. They're pretty unified that loneliness is it, or certainly high up there, along with some of the other mental health issues like anxiety that are affecting people. People don't go to church as much. They don't go to the old, Kiwanis clubs and things. They don't even see each other regularly at the local grocery store. Screens, remote work, all of these things have pulled away a lot of the fabric of community life, and loneliness, according to one of our recent surgeon generals, is the equivalent of 15 cigarettes a day. So you take that to heart as a health and wellness executive. Nothing is built like direct selling to bring people together, to care about each other, to have the incentive to care about each other. So I'm excited for us to own up to that, for us to be proud of where we are. All of these other companies have good, bad, amazing products, whatever. They're not going to solve loneliness by having someone chuck a cardboard box at your door and run away. But the events we have, the incentive trips, the interaction that we have together, that the teams have on their own, the caring they have to lift each other up, that's only found in one industry that I can tell, and it's ours. It's direct selling. So I think the best thing that could happen to this world is that the direct selling industry grows 5x. And so I sincerely think about and pray for every direct selling company to do things right and to gather as many people as we can, because it is, I think we are the answer to one of the biggest health and happiness problems on earth. And I hope we can all live up to it.
a wonderful message and the perfect idea and thought to end on. Kirk, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate everything you do. For everyone at doTERRA, for all of the wonderful customers and brand partners that you leave better than you found them, and for all that you do for the channel. Please tell Murray and everybody back at the HQ that we say hello.
Thanks so much, Wayne. And you're right. I'm a lucky man to get to work side by side with Murray, president of doTERRA, and a lot of other people who I know you know and have worked with. And yeah, thank you so much.
A lot of great people
for what you do,
yeah.
and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate everything.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a moment to subscribe and give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid insights and interviews for direct selling corporate executives. And don't forget to register for our upcoming Direct Selling University in Amsterdam at dsnevents.com. Secure your spot now. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.